Think your green thumb and a garden out back give you the freedom to grow anything? Well, think again. Gardening in America today is a wholesome hobby, an opportunity to grow your own food. However, beneath this peaceful pastime lies a shadowy botanical underworld, a list of forbidden flora. Plants so controversial, so disruptive, or so downright dangerous that they're now banned or heavily restricted by the law. From basic salad staples to psychedelic shrubs, here are 20 old veggies and plants you can't legally grow in your American garden anymore. Water spinach, Kangkong. This is far from your average spinach. Once a staple in Asian American gardens, water spinach, also known as Kangkong, is a fast-growing, nutrient-packed, leafy green that thrives in warm, wet environments. For Asian American families, it represented a nostalgic garden gem, bringing a taste of home. So, why exactly is this leafy taste of Asia public enemy #1 in states like Texas and Florida? Well, because it's an aquatic bully. What you're looking at is capable of choking entire waterways with its dense, matted growth, blocking sunlight for native species and clogging irrigation canals. Many states outright ban its cultivation due to ecological concerns. And as much of an ecological marauder as the water spinach is, it still pales in comparison with some other names on here. Opium Poppy. The Opium Poppy is truly one of the most strikingly beautiful flowers ever grown in a garden, with delicate petals in shades of white, pink, or purple, and these large round pods that sway with the wind. Historically, opium poppies have served ornamental purposes, littered by the roadside like a graceful border. Yet, behind those bright flowers laid a danger no one dared ignore. The opium poppy produces seeds used in baking, but more notoriously, its seed pods produce latex that refines into opiates like morphine and heroin. Due to its potential for illicit drug manufacturing, American federal law strictly prohibits growing opium poppies without a license. Surprise twist, your favorite everything bagel topping, poppy seeds, comes from this very illegal plant, but growing the poppies that produce them is forbidden. The irony of it all. Coca Plant long, treasured in Andean cultures. The coca plant's leaves are chewed or brewed into teas for mild stimulant effects and to help with altitude sickness. However, despite its history in South American cultures and its leaves being used for centuries, its potential for abuse and processing into a powerful illegal drug makes it utterly forbidden. What powerful drug could that be? Cocaine. Coca, unfortunately, is the source of cocaine, so it is strictly prohibited in the U.S. Imagine swapping your morning coffee for coca tea harvested fresh from your backyard. If only that were legal. Instead, the coca plant remains tightly controlled globally, ensuring it's off-limits for private growers in the U.S. Here's a jolt. The Coca-Cola Company still imports treated coca leaves for flavoring, under special government supervision, of course. Khat, popular in parts of Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, Khat is a shrub whose fresh leaves and twigs are chewed for their stimulant effects. People traditionally chew fresh khat leaves to achieve mild euphoria, increased alertness, and enhanced sociability. Khat is legal and culturally accepted in a number of countries. But here in America, though? Khats are banned because of the active compound, cathinone, a Schedule I-controlled substance, making the entire plant illegal to grow, possess, or even distribute in the U.S. Your garden won't be buzzing with this plant anytime soon. In fact, the government sees khat as a drug similar to amphetamines, despite its natural origin. Peyote Cactus. The tiny button-shaped peyote cactus is sacred to Native American religious ceremonies, famous for its potent psychoactive mescaline alkaloids. If you saw one, you probably wouldn't be able to distinguish it from an actual cactus. But you definitely should be able to, because the cultivation of these guys are banned in the U.S., with certain exceptions though, the first so far. While its use is protected and regulated for recognized religious purposes, In the Native American church, for the average gardener, growing peyote is strictly illegal under federal law due to its hallucinogenic effects. So, spiritual plant or outlaw? The peyote cactus is both. Nevertheless, growing one isn't particularly a walk in the park. This slow-growing desert cactus can take over a decade to reach harvesting size. Cultivation-wise, peyote requires conditions that mimic its natural desert limestone habitat. So, maybe the government is actually doing you a solid here. Absinthe Wormwood. This perennial herb is the heart and soul of the liquor absinthe, which was, at the time, romanticized by bohemian artists like Van Gogh and Oscar Wilde. However, even that couldn't save the herb from becoming an outlaw. Though wormwood itself isn't universally banned, its active compound thujone led to widespread absinthe bans in the early 20th century. It was historically blamed for causing hallucinations and madness, although this was only a myth born from toxic adulterants used in cheap versions and the high alcohol content. The myth wasn't too far from the truth, though. The plant contains thujone, a chemical regulated by the FDA. While the outright ban on absinthe was eventually lifted in 2007 with strict thujone limits, the plant itself occupies a gray area. While you can grow some wormwood species, the stigma around absinthe has cast a shadow over the plant's popularity. A herb that once inspired artistic legend now lives under legal suspicion. Castor bean plant. Another classic case of the horror beneath the beauty. The castor bean plant is quite well known thanks to its striking tropical-looking plant with large star-shaped leaves and spiky seed pods, making it a popular dramatic accent in gardens. So, what's the problem? Well, the problem lies beneath those beautiful leaves. Its beans contain ricin, one of the deadliest natural toxins known. Because of this, many U.S. states restrict or ban growing castor plants without permits. Don't be fooled by the small size of the castor beans themselves. The amount of ricin they contain is enough to be fatal if ingested or inhaled in certain forms. This makes home cultivation risky and legally problematic. Beauty and danger wrapped in one. From a toxic ornamental, we move to an invasive edible that destroys forests from the ground up. Garlic mustard. Native to Europe and Asia, garlic mustard was introduced to North America in the 1860s as a culinary and medicinal herb. This plant sounds like a charming garlicky herb, and indeed, its leaves are edible and delicious in pestos and salads. But don't let its culinary value fool you. It's an ecological nightmare. What you're looking at is a pervasive invasive species in forests and woodlands, outcompeting native wildflowers. A garden villain, if you may, but its most sinister weapon is allelopathy. It releases chemicals into the soil that kill the beneficial mycorrhizal fungi that's native trees and wildflowers. The very thing that makes it a menace is what made those early settlers value it as a hardy, reliable food source in a new world. Blackcurrant. Even the rare sweetness of the blackcurrant couldn't stop the fruit from being an outlaw. The story of the blackcurrant is, in fact, a historical oddity. This tart, vitamin C-rich berry was once popular in American gardens. Its popularity caused the blackcurrant flavor to be used in jams, syrups, sauces, and even purple candies, a taste we're all too familiar with. But then, in a plot twist straight out of a gardening thriller, the blackcurrant found itself cast out. Not because it was dangerous to eat, no, but because it helped spread a pesky fungus that threatened the nation's valuable white pine trees, which were a cornerstone of the U.S. timber industry. A federal ban was enacted in the early 1900s to protect the economy. This century-long ban is why you've probably never tasted a fresh blackcurrant in the U.S. Well, fortunately, you can't say the same thing about its flavor. Miracle fruit. This West African berry is a marvel of nature. It contains a glycoprotein called miraculin that temporarily binds to your taste buds. What does this mean? It means that for about 30 minutes after sucking on the fruit, sour and acidic foods, like lemons, limes, and vinegar, taste incredibly, miraculously sweet. Quite true to its name, it's one fascinating party trick that's even been used as an aid for chemotherapy patients. So, what could go wrong with this miracle? U.S. regulators have imposed restrictions because of concerns about misuse, including potential impacts on drug testing. Our next plant proves that sometimes, even after legalization, the government still wants a say in what grows in your veggie patch. Hemp. The name hemp isn't new to anyone. This is one plant that's had a long and complicated history in America. It's been widely cultivated for fiber, food, and oil. A once essential crop. However, decades of prohibition starting in the 20th century due to its association with marijuana meant this long history had to be forgotten. And you're probably wondering, wait, isn't hemp legal now? Yes, commercial production is legal, thanks to the 2018 Farm Bill. But here's the crucial catch that many home gardeners miss. Growing it requires a license from your state's Department of Agriculture, which means your backyard hemp patch is still very much illegal without one. And the reason is simple. To the untrained eye, hemp is visually indistinguishable from its psychoactive cousin, marijuana. So, yeah, better safe than sorry. Loganberries. Next to other berries, the loganberry isn't quite as popular. An issue not stemming from its taste, but its restriction. This raspberry-blackberry hybrid is a garden delight with a deep red color and complex, tangy sweet flavor. Here's a little history lesson for you. It was actually discovered by accident in the Santa Cruz backyard of Judge J.H. Logan in the 1880s. Not looking to complicate the naming process, he named it after himself. However, this delicious hybrid with quite the backstory is restricted in a couple of American states, especially in the berry-growing powerhouse of the Pacific Northwest, because it can escape gardens and hybridize with native berries, possibly threatening local ecosystems. Though not invasive per se, loganberries are treated cautiously by plant authorities to protect native berry species diversity. Even a classic beloved flower has a dark side that can land you in hot water. Next, a flower with a secret. Morning Glory, the classic heartwarming garden vine with trumpet-shaped flowers, is a staple of cottage gardens. The flowers usually open early in the morning, hence the name, and begin to fade or close by late morning or early afternoon. They come in a dazzling array of colors, including purple, blue, pink, red, white, and even multicolored streaked patterns. Long story short, they're quite pretty. Most species are perfectly legal and harmless. However, specific species, most notably Ipomoea violacea, heavenly blue, and Ipomoea tricolor, have seeds that contain lysergic acetamide, a naturally occurring psychedelic alkaloid with effects similar to LSD. While the plants and seeds are often still sold for ornamental purposes, the line is crossed with considerable intent, meaning harvesting them to consume their seeds will have the DEA doing your gardening for you. Water Caltrop. Don't confuse this with the edible water chestnut sold in cans. The water caltrop is an invasive aquatic plant that produces a fiendish spiked seed pod, often called a devil's pod or bat nut. It grows in freshwater lakes and rivers, but here in the U.S., it's nothing but an aquatic outlaw. These floating pods are incredibly hard and sharp, capable of piercing footwear and harming wildlife and humans alike. Ecologically, it's a disaster, forming impenetrable mats that outcompete native plants, reduce oxygen levels, and make swimming and boating impossible. Its ban is a matter of public safety and ecological preservation. Even a beautiful holiday decoration can be a menace, the kind of menace that gets the government's attention. Brazilian pepper tree. The Brazilian pepper tree was introduced to U.S. shores as an attractive ornamental shrub producing red berries. Often sold misleadingly as Florida holly or Christmas berry, what you're looking at is anything but jolly. For starters, it's a member of the poison ivy family and can cause severe skin irritation, rashes, and respiratory issues in sensitive individuals. You wouldn't want to be ho-ho-hoing all the way to the ICU on Christmas, would you? But even this isn't the pepper tree's greatest sin. Unfortunately, it turned invasive, forming dense thickets in coastal and wetland habitats, outcompeting native plants, and altering animal habitats. It's officially listed as invasive by many local governments, with bans on planting or selling it. A plant capable of creating vast monoculture wastelands, one holiday at a time. Kudzu, introduced from Japan in the late 19th century for erosion control and as an ornamental vine, Kudzu was praised as a miracle plant, with even government subsidies encouraging farmers to plant it to prevent soil runoff and add nitrogen to the soil. This was all thanks to its rapid growth, ability to fix nitrogen, and sweet-smelling flowers. Unfortunately, this fairy tale quickly became an absolute nightmare. How much of a nightmare? Well, the kind of nightmare that never stopped growing. It can grow a foot a day in the summer, smothering entire forests, fields, abandoned buildings, and power poles under a blanket of leaves. A nightmare that was eventually nicknamed the vine that ate the South. It was a near unstoppable force. Due to its destructive nature, many states regulate or ban planting kudzu. Japanese barberry. Japanese barberry is a thorny shrub with red berries, once popular as a garden hedge. This was, and surprisingly, is still a hugely popular landscaping shrub prized for its red foliage, hardiness, and resistance to deer. The problem with this otherwise perfect shrub? Unfortunately, it provides excellent habitats for black-legged ticks, vectors of Lyme disease, causing public health concerns. The humidity under the shrub is significantly higher, allowing black-legged ticks to thrive. Research has shown a direct correlation between barberry infestations and increased rates of Lyme disease. A thorn in gardeners' sides indeed. Many states consider Japanese barberry invasive and ban its sale or cultivation to reduce tick populations. Cogongrass. If you thought the vine that ate the South was invasive, well, the Cogongrass has actually been regarded as one of the top 10 worst invasive species on the planet. It usually thrives in disturbed areas such as roadsides, pastures, open woodlands, clear-cuts, grasslands, and agricultural fields. Cogongrass spreads aggressively via rhizomes and seeds, making eradication difficult. It's proven to be a nightmare for landowners, but its most dangerous trait is its flammability. It burns hotter and faster than native grasses, creating devastating fires that kill mature trees and other plants that would normally survive a natural fire. It's no surprise that it's banned or on noxious weed lists in multiple U.S. states. The next plant is a master of deception. Fig Buttercup. The fig buttercup is a master of deception. This is an ornamental plant famous for its unique fig-like leaves. Its beauty is only skin deep, like a garden variety Trojan horse, but with petals and more problems. This beautiful ground cover is an ecological black hole. It emerges and blooms before native spring ephemerals even have a chance, hogging all the sunlight. Shockingly, that's still not the most problematic characteristic of this plant. After bloom, it then dies back completely by early summer, leaving bare, eroded soil and a bank of tubers behind, ensuring its dominance for the next year, almost like its only purpose is to stop other plants from growing. Depending on location, growing fig buttercup is restricted or banned. And finally, we have the king of invasive plants, a botanical terminator that can break concrete and destroy home values. Japanese knotweed. Last but certainly not least, we have the juggernaut of invasive plants. Japanese knotweed is infamous for being one of the most persistent invasive plants in North America. It's native to Japan, China, Korea, and Taiwan, and was introduced to North America in the late 1800s, primarily as an ornamental plant. But this ornamental plant wasn't going to be controlled. Japanese knotweed doesn't just invade, it conquers and destroys. Its rhizome network is so powerful and resilient that it can force its way through concrete foundations, asphalt driveways, and retaining walls, causing immense structural damage. Eradicating it is a years-long, expensive battle of digging, herbicides, and monitoring. We're talking about a plant capable of spawning a new colony, all from a piece of rhizome the size of a fingernail. Almost every state has bans or strict regulations on Japanese knotweed cultivation, Mother Nature's leafed wrecking ball. These 20 outlaws all share a common theme. The line between a beloved plant and a banned one is often drawn by context, consequence, and unintended results. What starts as a well-intentioned import for food, erosion control, or beauty can quickly spiral into an ecological or public health crisis. The freedom to grow is a beautiful thing, but the smartest gardeners know that the best gardens are not just beautiful. They're also responsible. If you enjoyed this look back at their forgotten crops, give this video a hype and subscribe so we can keep these traditions alive for the next generation of gardeners.